Are there advantages to aging? Yes, I am Debbi-Jo Horton, and welcome to Advantages to Aging. Join my guests and I as we discuss aging and what makes for a healthy lifestyle, which results in a quality life. Thank you for joining me today. Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of Advantages to Aging. And do I have a special treat for you? Today I have with me Stacy Francis, and among a whole bunch of amazing things that she does at Francis Financial, she really goes forward and really helps the widows and widowers. I know that's not necessarily a subject that we like to really talk about, but it's an important part of life, is it not? Welcome, Stacy.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here. And I know it's a tough topic, but it's something that is really important. And I'm really glad that you're tackling it and helping me do just that.
Absolutely, because for those of you listeners that don't know, I am a widow, and you never really expect it, even when you know it's coming. Like my husband had terminal cancer, and so even though I knew it was coming, it just is never what you think it's going to be. So good, bad, or indifferent, it's until you're in it. You think that you can handle things a different, a certain way, and almost always it's different. And one of those ways is really the financial piece of it. Like, I had been told, don't make any major financial decisions in your first year. Yet there are some things you really do need to make decisions about right away. So tell me, Stacy, what are some of those financial blocks that really hold widows or widowers back?
Well, thank you for asking. And I'm sorry for your loss. And you are like so many people where you see something coming, but when it happens, it's still shocking. And I would say that the financial piece is pretty shocking as well. You're going from potentially two people who are really managing all the finances to one. And in a lot of relationships, and I don't know how this was in your relationship, but often we have almost like a division of labor, a divide and conquer. I'm doing certain things and he's doing other things. And more times than not, he tends to be taking care of a lot of the financial pieces, the longer term financial pieces, working with the financial advisor, could be even working with the accountant, helping with all of those pieces, the investing, and then bill paying. And even if we have our hand in the bill paying, just having a partner to help us is really important. And one of the blocks can be just, having this all now on your shoulders. And 8 out of 10 women at some point are going to be responsible 100% on their own for their own finances. But even with that statistic, even though, I say that, hearing that, reading that is very different than all of a sudden, finding yourself in that situation. And so one of the biggest financial blocks is again, just not having really had a whole lot of experience, particularly in the investing piece. And finding yourself in new territory. But what I really want to say, DJ, is that, what my hope and my prayer of today is that the women listening realize that this isn't rocket science, that they can totally do this, that if, they can deal with going to the stores, shopping and going to the supermarket and figuring out which aisle is in which aisle and organizing that, which we all do. We all have our system of how we do that. If you can do that, trust me, this is something that you can do as well.
Yeah, true. So true. So I know that oftentimes the death of a loved one is traumatic. It's not always something that feels peaceful. And so with it becomes sometimes everything becomes overwhelming, even the simple
Yeah.
things like going to the grocery store and figuring out where the items are that you buy every single week, and all of a sudden you've lost someone close to you and you can't quite get through that. And people, even if you are the person who does the primary piece of your financial puzzle, in that grief, it can become so overwhelming. And I love that you really talk about what you call 3 pillars of financial security, that you don't have to wait until you become a widow or a widower. It's something that you should be doing now. So can you just walk us through what those 3 pillars are?
Yeah, this is really important wherever you are, whether you're a man or a woman. These are really the pillars that create financial security, which we all deserve and all should have. And I'm going to go through them. I'm going to talk about how much people should be saving. I'm going to be talking about when you start to actually withdraw from your portfolio to live on it, what is the amount that's going to keep you safe long term without, essentially overtaxing the portfolio. And third, how to make sure that your money makes money for you. And so for savings, this is a big number. So I hope everyone listening to the podcast today is sitting down. Ideally, you should be saving about 15% of your income. That's 15%. And I'll be honest, DJ, when I first read that, I read that about 25 years ago. My thought was, who are they kidding? Who are these financial experts kidding? I don't know where that's going to come from. At the time, about 50% of my income was going towards housing and it's not that I was living large. It's just I had a very low income and I was living in New York City. But I will tell you is that you can do it. It doesn't have to be tomorrow, but over time. I've been very fortunate because I've gotten up to 15% of my income. But what I did is that among those 25 years, every time I got a raise, I would give my savings a raise. And so that's what I offer to all of you listening today. Start off at that 1%, that 2%, whatever you can do now. But make that commitment that when you do get a raise, that you give your savings a raise, because what I have to tell you, and I feel like this exercise kind of brings it all back to being real, whatever your income is. And I want you to think about your very first job out of college and how much money you made. And for the vast majority of us, myself included, it was a very small amount. And we made it, somehow we made it work. And then fast forward to where you are today. And you look at what your income is and you make it too, but it's probably a lot higher. So this is just essentially a long story and an exercise to help us go back to back then and knowing what we can live with, knowing what we can live without, that you've done it before. And that as we have gotten raises or income increases along our life, our standard of living and our spending, well, it went up too. So that's okay, but let's make sure that your savings goes up as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an excellent pillar. I know that when I first looked at putting money away, I was a single mom and I was like, are you kidding me? I can't even make ends meet. How am I supposed to save? So you're right. I decided that I couldn't even do a percentage, but anytime I wanted to grab a coffee, I would, instead of grabbing the coffee from a coffee shop, I would put that $2, $3, whatever that happened to be, into my savings account. And, and little by little was able to grow that to where I now save 20% of my income. And you still might say, like, seriously, how can you do that? Well, let me just give you this little nugget of knowledge. Wherever you are in life today, that young person that you are today is going to take care of the older person we're going to become tomorrow. So if you can't afford it today, how on earth are you going to afford it tomorrow when you're older and maybe not working?
Have you thought completely about your retirement plan? No, I'm not really talking about the financial end of it. I'm talking about feeling like you're still making a contribution to the world, to your family, or even just your community, or yourself, your own personal development. I'm not talking about a 9-to-5 job. I'm talking about starting your own business with Neora, fitting it into the cracks and crevices of your life, having a ton of fun with other Neora brand partners, then you definitely want to take a look at this. Find the link in the show notes. This is DJ with Neora.
So that's the first pillar. What's another one of the pillars?
Well, the second one is once you start to take money out, making sure that you're not eating into the principal too much. And when I say the principal, that amount of money that's earning income and dividends and growth. And what that magic number, because we're talking about percentages, what that magic number is about 4%. So studies have shown that if you're withdrawing about 4% of your portfolio on an annual basis, your portfolio should last you about 30 years, maybe even more. Again, making sure that it's invested. It's not going to last you if it's in that savings account or that checking account, that it's invested in the market and it's in at least a moderate mixture of 50% stocks, 50% bonds portfolio. The more money that you have in the stock portion, well, the longer that portfolio is going to last for you. But that magic number, those two magic numbers, 15% for savings and 4% for withdrawals. And let's say you've saved $100,000. Well, that means $4,000 a year that you can take out sustainably. That may not be enough for you I don't know who that would be enough for. So we know that $100,000 wouldn't be enough, but also make sure that you take into consideration other sources of income. Go to socialsecurity.gov, SSA.gov, and get your benefit. And take a look, add that benefit in. If you're going to get any income from annuities or from pension plans, add that income in. And then figure out what is the balance, the amount that I need to make up for my living expenses, and what is 4% of my portfolio value now? Do I have enough money now to do that? Or do I need to put more money away? And DJ, I'll send you a fantastic calculator. It's my favorite calculator in the world that your listeners are going to love because it does these calculations for you. And it's actually even much more sophisticated than this. It takes into account the state you live in, the tax rate, the percentage of stocks versus bonds, when you're going to retire, how much you expect to spend each year when you retire. So I'll make sure I send that to you. So for all of you listening, make sure you look in the show notes for that.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm going to ask a potentially dumb question, but I know that everybody is thinking it. So dumb or not dumb, I'm going to ask it. So I'm putting 15% into my savings every year. When it comes time to draw out that 4%, am I still putting in the 15% or am I stopping that and just taking the 4%?
Such a good question, and no questions are dumb. And that actually is a question I've always wondered, and I looked it up recently. No, so this is assuming you're taking the 4% out after you are fully retired. You're not able to put any more money in, right? So you're not being required to try and find money somewhere else to put in. So it truly is, once that funnel of putting money towards savings stops and you need to live on that money, the amount that can come out in that with that very sustainable way is about 4%. Yep.
And what about those people like me who says, I'm never going to retire. I love the work that I do so much that I'm always going to have income coming in. But at some point, I want to be able to use some of the money that I've put away as part of my, the money that I'm living on, rather than just continuing to work and feeling like I have it be more like I want to.
Yeah, no, it's so funny, DJ. I mean, I feel like you're talking about me. I joke when I come into the office. I'm like, you guys, when I'm coming in my walker, you're going to just have to cut me off because I am one of those people where I adore the job that I do. And what I have to say, though, is that sometimes things happen and it's out of our control. Your spouse could be sick. You may need to take care of him or her. Unfortunately, you could become sick and your career could be shut down much faster than you ever had hoped. There are so many unknown things that could happen. And so choose an age that's reasonable. Maybe if you want to work forever, maybe you use 68, right? Or maybe you use 70. But after 70, I have to say, when individuals come to Francis Financial and say, put me at 85, stopping working, the highest we've ever gone is 70, just because you're taking on a lot of risks. So you don't want to take and put that much pressure on you, because if God forbid there is a reason you need to stop working and you haven't prepared, you have a crisis in your life that now has also become a financial crisis.
That's an excellent piece of advice. Okay, so pillar number 3.
All right. So I love this. So how do you invest your money in a volatile market? How do you make sure your money's growing? All right. So we've talked about numbers, 15% for savings, 4% for what we're going to withdraw from our portfolio. The next powerful number is the rule of 72. And actually, if you tell your friends this, they are going to think that you have been having conversations with Albert Einstein in your sleep, because it's a really phenomenal rule. The rule of 72 means that whatever interest rate or growth you have in your portfolio, if you divide that by 72, divide it into 72, it tells you how many years it's going to take until your money doubles. So here's a great example. Let's assume that you're investing in an aggressive portfolio. You would have 75% stocks and 25% bonds. That earns you 10% a year. And if we use this rule, we take the 72 divided by 10, it means that your money is going to double every 7.2 years. Now, essentially, what does that mean? Well, the higher your return, then the more quickly your money is going to double for you. Why is this important? Well, it's really important because inflation, and we know going to the gas pump, going to the grocery store, something that is true for all of us, no matter where we live here in America and beyond, is that prices are going up. So you need your money in your portfolio to work hard to keep up with that. And the other reason is that we're living longer. For men, when we're planning at Francis Financial, we model out their life to age 90. For women, to age 95. And for some clients, we need to even look beyond that because their mom is in their late 90s and living her best life. So we need to think about how can we make sure that our money is working for us, because we've worked really hard for money for our career, or we've supported our spouse, helping him or her, create that wealth. We need it to work for us. And I understand that it's a scary time. The market is up and down. We just saw some real tough losses in particularly January and February. But at the same time, the market came back in March. So what I want to say is don't worry about volatile markets, because that is always going to happen. Instead, know that every 2 out of 3 years, DJ, the market goes up. Every 2 out of 3 years. So that means 66% of all times the market is going to go up, and I will take those odds. So put your money in, have it be a beautiful, robust portfolio mixture between stocks and bonds, both international and here in the US. Rebalance it, make sure that you have great advice. You can work with a financial advisor and make sure that you stay with it. The worst thing, and the people I have seen who are struggling the most financially are those who pulled their money out after some type of market downturn. And market downturns are always going to be there. And so making sure that you stay committed to your portfolio and that your portfolio is working for you. Now, I know one of the questions we get, DJ, is, well, how do I find a financial advisor? And I'll send to you a wonderful list of questions that you can ask. Essentially, you want someone who's fee only, fiduciary, independent, but I'll send a really nice list because that's going to help you find the right financial advisor for you.
So I plan on living to 117, which is, when you were saying, finish working by the age 68, I'm thinking that's a little too close for me. So I might have to skew that back a little bit, but really great tips. And I do love your thought process about, still investing even though we have a volatile market, because, like whatever's happening right now, sky high inflation,
Yeah.
interest rate hikes we're expecting, war, That's not new. We've
Exactly.
gone through it many times in my lifetime, never mind over the last century. So to think that that's not going to continue going up and down is a really valid point. Is, if by not saving, you're really doing yourself a disservice, but making sure that you really have someone who's got your back, and those questions will be very welcome. So we'll try to put as much of that into the show notes as possible. But you will also have the opportunity to be able to reach out to Stacy and ask your
Yeah.
questions, because we'll put her contact information in the show notes as well. I really gathered so many nuggets from this talk today, and I hope that you all did too. As we continue to look at the advantages to aging, don't just listen in, but think about how you're going to implement it in your life today. Thanks again, Stacy, for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Do you think one of the biggest advantages to aging is all the knowledge we gain along the way? Me too. What did you learn today? Share with me in my Facebook group with the same name as this podcast, Advantages to Aging. Now hit subscribe so you don't miss all the tips to come in future episodes.